All right, everybody. Let's try to look at some SAT reading and writing questions. Here we go. Okay. So, number one says former astronaut Ellen Ochoa says that although she doesn't have a definite idea when it might happen, she's something that humans will someday need to be able to live in other environments than those found on Earth. This conjecture informs her interest in future research missions to the moon. Okay, what's the most important word here? Although. This determines the overall flow of logic. Mm, we also see the phrase doesn't have a definite idea. Doesn't. So although she doesn't have this thing, and then what can you expect after the comma? This is the dependent clause, right? So in the independent clause that follows, we should expect something that is contrary to what was mentioned, right? So she doesn't have a definite idea. Although that's the case, mm, she still has an idea. Okay. So she still has a vague idea, maybe. Yeah. She still has some idea. Okay. So the word vague would be the opposite of the word, definite or clear. Okay. So yeah. Mm, so in this respect, I think we could already figure out what the answer is. But just to confirm, I also have the word conjecture to refer to, right? Like a guess, right? Like an inference. So something that you are not fully sure of. Okay. So the fact that this pronoun here, this, is used has to do with the fact that the prior phrase is what we need to refer to. Okay. Speculation, right? When you see words like, you know, guess and inference, that speculation is most likely the case. Okay. So again, pay attention to although. She doesn't have a definite idea. She still has some kind of idea. So therefore, she'd be able to speculate something. All right. What about number two? Beginning in the 1950s, Navajo Nation legislator Annie Dodge Waneka continuously worked to promote public health. This, okay, so very similar to this kind of structure. The fact that the word this is used again must mean what? The effort, right? That is the work. Continuous. The fact that you work continuously, that must have to do with a sense of persistence. Okay, not too difficult, right? All right, let's try, say, number three. Following the principles of community-based participatory research, tribal nations and research institutions are equal partners in health studies conducted on reservations. Okay. A collaboration between the Crow tribe and Montana State University something this model. Tribal citizens worked alongside scientists to design the methodology and continue to assist in data collection. Okay, so what do we need to pay attention to? Tribal nations and research institutions. They're equal partners. Okay. Now, the fact that they're equal partners, how is that concept mm, evident in the following sentence? Collaboration, right? So, and then we have Montana State University as a research institution and the Crow tribe as an example of a uh, tribal nation. Okay. Now, must be what? I would venture to say that I would expect some kind of, positive word here. Tribal citizens. Okay, um, so the tribal citizens worked alongside scientists, right, to design the methodology and to continue to assist in data collection. So when I see the word model, hmm, I'm inclined to think that these two groups of people, right, well, these two We have the Crow tribe and the Montana State University. This model of community-based participatory research, and these two groups of people being equal partners. What would I say about that? Well, they would typify this model, right? There would be a typical example. Typify, that's a word that I could, insert here. What else? Serve as a typical example of. Yeah, typical example of. Exemplify, right? Example, you see the word example within the word exemplifies. Let's take a look at number 7. In 2007, computer scientist Louis von Ahn was working on converting printed books into digital format. Okay. He found that some words were distorted enough that digital scanners couldn't recognize them, but most humans could easily read them. Okay. So them referring to words, right? So what was he doing? He was working on converting printed books into digital forms. Okay. And unfortunately, some of the words were distorted. So digital scanners couldn't recognize them, but humans could recognize them. Now, based on that finding, what did he decide to do? He invented a simple security test to keep automated bots out of websites. Okay. The first version of the reCAPTCHA test asked users to type one known word and one of the many words scanners couldn't recognize. Okay. Correct answers proved the users were humans and added data to the book digitizing project. So what is this getting at? Sounds like there was a problem to begin with. Words were distorted, that digital scanners couldn't recognize them. So what did he do? What did this von Ahn person do? He invented this thing, simple security test. And what was that security test? reCAPTCHA test. So what is this? Which answer do we want? What is the purpose of this? It has to do with Von's invention of reCAPTCHA, right? It's not about, I don't see anything about popularity. This is too general, digital scanners, how they work. I mean, this would entail also the mechanism behind how digital scanners work. And in the case of answer choice C, yeah, to call attention, that's not the right way to phrase this. I mean, book digitizing project, that's kind of like a, wannabe phrase, but, what do we really need? The main thing that we care about is this particular invention, right? To call attention, I don't like the emotionality behind this. It's like you need to pay attention to this, because it's so amazing. It doesn't have that kind of tone here. It's more like just a objective description of what happened. All right, shall we take a look at what number? Let's see, 14 has to say. Okay. Psychologists Dr. Keltner and Jonathan Haidt have argued that experiencing awe, sensation of reverence and wonder typically brought on by perceiving something grand or powerful, can enable us to feel more connected and connected to others, and thereby inspire us to act more altruistically. Keltner, along with Paul K. Piff, Pia, Dietz, and colleagues, claims to have found evidence for this effect in a recent study where participants were asked to either gaze up at exceptionally tall trees in a nearby grove, reported to be a universally awe-inspiring experience, or stare at the exterior of a nearby nondescript building. After 1 minute, an experimenter deliberately spilled a box of pens nearby. Okay, so which would support this claim? Now, where is the claim? Claims to have found evidence for this effect. So when you see the word claim, you have to look for the word claim. the evidence seems to have found evidence. Well, participants were asked to either gaze up at exceptionally tall trees, or stare at the exterior of a nearby nondescript building. Okay. So I guess the phrase that I'm interested in is for this effect. Okay. We're going to have to determine what that evidence is in terms of the evidence pertaining to how, well, this part right here. The claim itself is actually mentioned here. Okay. So when I see the word argued, I'm inclined to think that that is the claim here. The thing is, when I see the word claims, I mean, it could say claim that, but it doesn't say claims that. It doesn't. It doesn't. So because it doesn't say claims that, I have to refer to this effect. And this effect, the word this again comes up, has come up, hasn't it? So I have to refer to what's mentioned before. Okay. So let's read this sentence carefully. A sensation of reverence and wonder typically brought on by perceiving something grand or powerful can enable us. Okay. So if we, let's see, enable us. As soon as I see the word enable, I'm thinking cause and effect. So what's the cause? Experiencing awe. Okay. By perceiving something grand or powerful. Grand, powerful. What does that lead to? More connected to others and thereby, so greater connection, and therefore what? More altruistic, which means generous, right? Okay, so I need to see, what am I looking for in the answer choice? After having been exposed to something that causes a great deal of, awe or reverence, right? Which one would that be? Would it be the nondescript building, or would it be the exceptionally tall trees? That is universally awe-inspiring. It's not the nondescript building, right? So I need something to do with tall trees, okay? And as a result of looking at the tall trees, I need people to feel generous, okay? That's what I'm looking for. Let's see. Where's the tall trees in the answer choices? In the case of C, participants who did not help the experimenter pick up pens were more likely to report having, this says did not help the, yeah, we need, I guess, something of a positive connection between experiencing awe and altruism. This says did not help, was not altruistic. I don't care about the greater number of positive words to describe the trees. And the building in a post-experiment survey then to participants who did not help the experimenter. I mean, what I am interested in is not the positive greater number of positive words. What I am interested in is, let's see, what is the main cause here? Gaze up at exceptionally tall trees. So the act of gazing up, which means what? Looking at. Yeah. So which one has to do with looking at? Looking at and looking at. All right, let's take a look at D first. Participants who had been looking at the building were significantly more likely to notice that the experiment had dropped the pens. So if you're looking at the building, right, which is the nondescript building that was mentioned here, then you're gonna, drop the pen. We're more likely to notice that the experimenter dropped the pens than who are looking at the trees. But where is the sense of generosity and altruism? That's not really mentioned here, is it? In the case of answer choice A, what do I notice? Help the experimenter pick up significantly more pens if you were looking at the trees. So this would be the altruism. So altruistic. Pick up significantly more pens. If you were doing what? If you were, let's see, gazing up at exceptionally tall trees, looking at the tall trees. Okay. And as a result, what did you feel? Awe. Awe. So, I guess this part here, I need to add a little bit of a detail because in order to experience the awe to begin with, what needs to happen first? Gaze at the trees. Gaze at trees. Okay. That's how you end up with answer choice A. All right. Let's take a look at number 18. Birds of many species ingest foods containing carotenoids. Pigmented molecules that are converted into feather coloration. Coloration tends to be especially saturated in male birds' feathers, and because carotenoids also confer health benefits, the deeply saturated colors generally serve to communicate what is known as an honest signal of a bird's overall fitness to potential mates. Okay, so what part do we need to pay attention to? However, what do they find? Males in several species of the tanager genus, blah, 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 use microstructures in their feathers to manipulate light. Manipulation implies what? A sense of dishonesty, doesn't it? Misrepresenting something. Using something in a way that is, in a way that leads to a dishonest result. Creating the appearance of this dishonesty is further elaborated upon. Creating the appearance of something of deeper saturation without the birds necessarily having to maintain a carotenoid-rich diet. So it only creates the word that's omitted here is the word mere. Creates the mere appearance. And that's it. It's only the appearance. It's not actually the case. It's just it only appears that way. So what does this imply? A dishonest signal. All right. Okay. Let's see. In the case of 29, what do we have? Let's look at a writing question. In November 1934, blah, blah, was living in what must have seemed like the ideal city for a young artist. All right, so this ideal city was Paris. She was studying firsthand the color-saturated style of France's modernist masters and beginning to make a name for herself as a painter. So far, so good. But what happened? She still longed to return to her childhood home of India. So these are not the same places. Only there she believed could her art truly flourish. So what do we have here? Something of like a sharp left turn, right, in terms of the overall flow of logic. So Paris is all good and fine, but something more important awaits her in India. So we need something along the lines of however, or on the other hand, still is the best word that encapsulates that meaning. What about 30? Before California's 1911 election to approve a proposition granting women the right to vote, activists across the state sold tea to promote the cause of suffrage. Okay, so they sold tea so that women, in order to promote the cause of women's suffrage. Now, what happened in San Fran? The Women's Suffrage Party sold this is the name of the tea, equality tea at local fairs. And then, so we have something happening in San Francisco, and we have something happening in Los Angeles. What happened in Los Angeles? Activist Nancy Tuttle Craig, who ran one of California's largest grocery store firms, distributed votes for women's tea. All right, so all these things having to do with suffrage and women's right to vote, right? So it sounds like similar things happened in San Fran and in Los Angeles. Similar things. All right. Let's also look at this question right here. Okay. Student wants to present the study and its findings. Okay. So the study. I care about the study. Look at the subject here. This is not the study. Now, this is not the study either. This is the study, and this is the study. Okay? Remember, conciseness and efficiency, conciseness and clarity, those are what the relevance questions ask for. So you might as well use, I mean, the main thing to pay attention to here is study and findings. Study and findings. So if that's the case, why would you waste any words? Why wouldn't you talk about the study right away? Where is the study? Okay. Well, this provides a study, and this talks about what it used. It used these kinds of techniques. But why would I care about the techniques? I care about its findings. So what do I have here? I have the study. Oops. Let's use this color. I have the study, and I also have the findings. Determine that. That's the word that I care about. I don't like the word used. I like the word determine that, because that to me shows, they found that. They determined that. Those two would mean the same thing. All right, so on that basis, we have answer choice D as the answer. All right.